Okay, so what can we do about this? This is a pretty tough situation, isn't it? What can we do about it? Well, first of all, the most important thing is focus on God's way. Learn it, know it, love it. And this is great. The sword of the Spirit has this thing. It's just wonderful. It says, obey God with gladness. Because he's saving you from destruction and eternal destruction. That's what God's doing. It should be a joy to us. Now, we can't always do it. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes our emotions make it hard. Sometimes we got up real early and we're tired, so we can't quite get into it. You know, sometimes we're hungry. Sometimes we ate too much. There's a lot of things that make it hard to obey God. But our overall picture should be obey God with gladness. It's our biggest protection. Be thankful. That really stirs up the good emotional motivation. Be thankful for what God has given you, what he's done. Thankful for Kata, be thankful for the sword of the Spirit, be thankful for commitments, your yearly commitment now, and at some point, fairly soon, next couple of years, you all have an opportunity to make a lifelong commitment to the sword of the Spirit and the covenant if you want to. Be thankful that God is making these offers to you. Okay, now, once you want to focus on God's way, give your desires over to God. You're not trying to pass a final exam here. You're trying to live a life with God's help, because that's what he wants for you. So, you have to be honest, though. You can't give your desires to God. You can't, if you say, oh, God, I wish I could pray 400 rosaries a day. Actually, I think my 102-year-old grandmother did. And she offered them mostly for me, so that's, you're getting the benefit, you and my family, see. But very few people besides Busha Koszubski could pray 400 rosaries a day. You know, she just was always like this. If that's not what you desire, you might say, oh, I really desire to be rich and like the Queen of Sheba and have slaves and can spit on them when they don't do it. Now, mind you, ladies, don't say that to your husband. Please, spare us a little, but say it to God. Be honest. You got to be honest with God. Okay, you have to be honest in your prayer. And if you're reading, you're trying to obey God with gladness, so you're going to read what his kingdom's like, what he wants. And if it's something hard, you can read that. And, it says, love your enemies. Don't hate them, but love them. And it's okay when you read that. I mean, not in church, of course, but if you're reading in your prayer time, you can say, oh, God, that's a tough one. Help me understand what it means and how to do it. And then go on, But that's the kind of everyday honesty you want. You have to be honest in an appropriate level in your cell groups with your brothers and sisters. And again, you remember we had the talk, the last set, on personal relationships, on gossip and confidentiality. What's said in the group stays in the group. Unless you're telling someone because they need to help or they, the person. So if we have that protection, we can be honest about things. And again, be careful talking about your husbands because we are weak men. And we don't like to have ourselves discussed in deep, our faults discussed in deep detail, in the women's groups. So I've never been in a women's group, so I'm sure you don't do that. But if your desire is ever to do that, then don't do it. Or I guess in the single women's groups too, talking about your boyfriends would be the same kind of thing. So, so you have to give your desires to God. You have to be honest, and you have to realize that everyone has troubles. You are not the only one with these troubles. Sometimes I thought to myself, imagine, our old pastor when I was growing up. He was like 85 years old, and he would, in those days, they heard confessions all the time, even during Mass, they would hear confessions in those days. And I once thought to myself, imagine, he's probably been a priest for 70 years, imagine how many sins he's heard in 70 years hearing confessions every day. He knows we all have problems, and you know we all have problems, and God knows. So don't be guilty. Aim for the best that God has for you. And then you have to work on your bad desires. It doesn't go away overnight. It doesn't go. Sometimes a person has a problem, and It's just, but that's pretty much what we would consider a miraculous intervention, you know. And God does it for a reason, and it doesn't mean all their problems went away. It just means that one did. You know, oftentimes it's an addiction, like to drugs or alcohol. It could go away right away, but all of the results and the emotional desires and all that kind of stuff from that is still there, and they have to deal with it. So you have to work on it. Okay, here's some hints for you to think about. Wrong desires, I think it's fair to say wrong desires all come from good things. The thing that stimulated this wrong desire is actually a good thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But here's where it can go wrong. If you have a good desire but a wrong object for it, that causes you problems. Example. If it starts off good, but then it goes bad. An example of that would be eating is good. In fact, anyone who doesn't think it's good, you quit eating for a year, come back, and then tell me what it was like. It is good, and that's why God built it into us. But you know, that good desire produces the bad desire of gluttony, right? So that's too much of a good thing, right? Or you, instead of desiring food, you desire creamy rich ice cream with whipped cream on top and cherries and chocolate food. So you start desiring that. That's the wrong object for your good desire of hunger. That would be an amount. If it's the wrong object, it is very good. Sex is a very good thing. And if you don't think so, just have everyone in the world quit having sex, come back in a year and tell me what you think. Because we're going to have a great big gap in the population that year. God put it in us. He made it part of our continuing on. But what is adultery? It's those same desires to the wrong object, to your neighbor's wife. What's fornication? To the wrong object, to somebody who you're not married to. If you're single, you know. So, or even yourself. So you see, the object of a good desire can turn it into a bad result. Another one, the time. The wrong time. Like marriage is a good thing. It's a sacrament. God's given it and blessed it. But think of a marriage, and now think of elopement. You know, you run to Reno, Nevada, and get married in front of the Justice of the Peace. Why? Because we fell in love. And we made our decision based on that desire. You know, and now marriage is a good thing, but that elopement and you know, getting married in the civil courts, that's a bad thing. Well, all that is it's a good thing at the wrong time. And this person might be a good person to marry, but you know, it's the wrong time. So think of a good thing with the wrong object or the wrong amount or the wrong time. That'll help you. Here's another thing that you got to work on: the pampered life. You know, because bad desires, the way you work on it is to say no. If we could do that, Lent would be like a celebration time for us, right? Instead of a time where we're kind of changing our soul. Because it's hard for us to say no. Now, it's hard by nature to say no since the fall, but in addition